Hello everyone, welcome to one more episode of Ask BG. This episode is an exclusive episode because I have traveled from Western Australia, Perth, to meet Babu Garu in his house. I am with him personally, and today this episode is special because you all had opportunities to ask questions in previous episodes of Ask BG. There was also a lot of videos available on internet where BG sir were answering media personnel and many other people who were interviewing him. But today there are three personalities who are going to ask this question. It's not me. To start with, the first part of this episode, we have derived questions from artificial intelligence. So I've asked ChatGPT, if you ever get a chance to meet Babu Garu, and if you have to ask few questions and if you have to interview him, what would you want to know from him? What questions would you ask? So I gave these prompts to ChatGPT and it gave me few questions, and these questions are with me. So today the exam is for the teacher, and I promise you I have not shown him this question paper. So this will be a real exam to him, and let's see how this AI versus BG works out. Hello, sir. How are you?
Aditya, thank you. That seems very interesting. And welcome home. Welcome to Melbourne. And thank you for traveling 3,500 kilometers.
Roughly, yes.
Yes, and it's a great delight to meet with
I have to tell you all, I'm in BG sir house, and I got a rare opportunity to spend a weekend with him. And I had a lot of learning in these few days. I've asked many questions. I had discussions with him. He taught me a lot. These few days had been a humanist boot camp for me. And the warmth of BG sir and the hospitality of his close knit family are fabulous. I'm touched. I am from hospitality background, but the level of hospitality that his family has provided me is not less than any five-star hotel. You have to trust me on this. That defines how BG sir at a personal level. Really, sir, I'm very glad to be with you, spend time with you, and I think this is one of the greatest moments of my life.
you. Oh, wow. Wow.
I'm delighted.
Feel welcome to come back again.
Sure, I'd love to.
Thank you for coming and come back again.
So, if you're ready, I've got my questions ready. And in this interview, I have grouped the questions into a few parts. The first part would be questions on secularism and rationalism. Here goes the first question, and these are being asked by ChatGPT and not me.
Right.
So let's see. What do you think are the biggest challenges to promote secularism in India today?
I think, Aditya, when we talk of secularism, defining the word secularism is itself a problem in India. Historically, the idea of secularism relates to the separation of religion and state. It comes from the French Revolution onwards. It is in the American Constitution that Parliament or any state institution should be far away from religion, so that the freedom of conscience of the individual, of the citizen, of the member of society is well protected. So, because the state is not in favor of one religion, one ideology, or another. This is the general concept of secularism. It's a concept that applies to society where our lives are governed not by religious concepts, but by secular concepts. In matters of politics, in matters of the state, we are saying public policy should not be influenced by religious ideology, by religious belief. No one is talking of atheism. We are saying it should be a private matter. Public institutions funded by the general public should not be in favor of religion or against it. It should be indifferent to religion. It should be far away from religion. Unfortunately, ever since our now former, of course, then President of the Republic, Sarvepalli Radhakrishna Garu, he kept saying that secularism is equal respect to all religions. That became a problem in the sense that religion should have no place in public life and in the affairs of the state is the concept of secularism. What he did is he added a perverted modification to it, saying now the state has to be equally distant, which means every religion is honored, respected, and welcome. This messes up things as we now see they are messing up things in our country. So, the biggest challenge for secularism in our country is to define it correctly, to understand it right, because the understanding is wrong today. Now, having said that, what would be the other challenges at a practical level? The other challenges would be that political parties have picked up the agenda of a religion and made it policy, almost included it in the election manifesto, but carefully. Why carefully? Because the Representation of People's Act will not allow any appeal to religion. So they are usually careful, but there are so many aberrations today when politicians are bringing in religion into politics agendas. This will have the greatest, to start with, nuisance value, but the greatest perilous danger to democracy. Secularism, democracy go together. Otherwise, both secularism will fail, both democracy will fail. We are at that serious juncture in India's history where we have secularism in the constitution, in the preamble, but it's not there in society. That it is not there in society is a matter for social workers to talk about, to change. That it is not there at the state level in the affairs of the government is something that should matter to every human rights activist, every political activist, every person who has a concern for democracy. Because when you take secularism out of the Indian political structures, power structures, that will be the guaranteed departure from modernity to primitive arrangements of societies. Do we have examples? We have the story of Turkey when Kemal Pasha, called Ataturk, he took over Turkey and made sure religion is taken out of public life. That religious institutions cannot keep properties which they acquired through privilege in the past. Why do temples have 10,000 acres of land? How did they get it? Who gave it to them? Does it belong to them? Was it taken away from the people? Should the state not take it back? They did that in France during the French Revolution and after. The church was left with no property. The church started having to pay taxes Why charitable status? Now, can you imagine in India that people might think like this? I don't think so. I don't think so because Indian political discourse has not matured to that level. Religion has become the main player in politics today. Look at how religious leaders are revered, venerated, uh, as if they are the fountainheads of morality in society. Whereas history and contemporary development show to us that that is not the case. Morality cannot be found in religious institutions, religious leaders. Look at the number of people who are getting parole and coming out of prison so that they can campaign for elections in India. These are the religious people. The rascals have been arrested and given prison sentences for rape and murder. And political expediency means that because they bring in the votes, political parties are letting them out just before elections on the promise of good behavior and then sending them back honorably. These are convicts, people sentenced for heinous crimes. So the theory of secularism is good. It is the basis for the guarantor for Indian democracy, a multicultural society like ours, made of religious people and non religious people. But it is being defeated every day. Who can fight that decline? Because 50 years ago it was not as bad as now. It has to be by a population which is conscious of what is happening, which is alert to the dangers that there will be if this continues. Already huge damage has happened. And a vigilant public, but also a conscious political process supported by the judiciary and an election commission which is watchful. This also, I think, will be of great importance. And political parties should behave themselves, which they are not. Those are the challenges of secularism, even before we consider the importance of scientific approach and of the role of reason in the governance of public affairs. There is secularism, which needs to recognize human rights, the equality of all, which needs to recognize the importance of democracy, but that all matters are governed by reason, rationalism, and in the light of the facts revealed by science and the scientific method, which is about acquiring knowledge through a specific process. All of these are together, and in all of these, today, especially the last 25 years, India has been failing, sadly. It is not the case in a country like Australia where we are talking today. It's not the case in, at least in the secular domain, not the case, for example, in Mexico or Peru or Chile or France. Because the people are alert, they are defending what they risk losing if they don't do the right thing. That's a challenge for a new democracy like India to pick it up. All this nonsense saying India has been democratic for 2,500 years, there were people who were electing their leaders, is really bunkum. If 100 people get elected by 10,000 people, it doesn't make it democracy. What makes democracy valuable is not majority rule. What makes democracy valuable is that the will of the people, subject to human rights filters, comes in where privilege is not playing a role. That is not how democracy of Greece or of India worked. Yes. leaders were elected. But modern democracy and that is not the same. So let's get clarity. Let's not get defeated or diverted by claims which are meaningless. Saying, very often people say India is the largest democracy of the world. In terms of the number of people going to the electoral booths, yes. Election is a mechanism of democracy, not the definition of it. Even that mechanism is failing. Sambar, picking up people, dropping them at the polling station. Before the elections, distributing chicken and wine and whiskey and so on, and arak, buying votes. This is what is happening in industrial scale in India. That needs ethics.
So while on my way to Melbourne, I thought to bring something to you. So something caught my eye, and I think that suits your personality. And I got that with me now. Let me give it to you. And people, see, I think you all will agree with me that this suits him. All right. So, sir, what do you think about this?
What do I think about the big boss?
Yes.
You know that I was in a quarrel for 63 days, every day, with this chap called Big Boss.
Yes.
What was my quarrel about? My quarrel with the Big Boss is Big Boss is irrational. Big Boss is a voice. Big Boss is authoritarian. And Big Boss wants to define how we live our lives, what we do in that closed atmosphere of a house where information is not available to us. So the concept of Big Boss is about other people controlling our lives. Now, should we accept that? I will not. Which is why, Aditya, I went into the Big Boss house with a t-shirt which said Bigger Boss.
I remember.
Now, Bigger Boss is for me the definition of all of us. There are so many things in life like what Big Boss represents, which is authoritarian, someone dictating our lives, telling us what we should do, being irrational about it. I don't mind someone giving advice because others have greater knowledge than us. Some are more wise than us, despite our pretensions. However, to impose somebody's will on us is not what we accept. Day one of Big Boss House, Big Boss said, send X, Y, and Z to prison. And I said, no, we will not send him to prison. We will not send her to prison. Because you have to give rational basis for sending someone to prison. And Big Boss hasn't proposed that, hasn't supplied that. And I think the media, which was watching what a humanist was doing in Big Boss house, captioned it as Babu Gogineni starts a revolution in the house. So I will say, not Big Boss, who is someone else, but we are the bigger bosses.
Oh.
We are the bigger bosses. We are in charge of our lives, and we are bigger than anyone else who seeks to, shall I say, influence or control our thinking and our behavior. So I will propose that we change Big Boss to Bigger Boss, Aditya. I think I'm sorry about my handwriting, but the message I hope is clear. It is Bigger Boss.
I think for me, it resembles that the change has started.
Where are you saying the change has started, Aditya?
In people's understanding of reality, thinking for themselves and thinking correctly.
There you go, bigger boss. Not just me in Big Boss house, but everyone watching it. You guys are the bigger bosses in your life. You live your life, not somebody else's. You go by the light of your thoughts. Of course, those thoughts have to be well considered. They should not be crazy going by common sense standards. And we live our lives as bigger bosses. Has a change started? I would think yes. It started because people are beginning to think. People are beginning to think for themselves, and also because they're listening to those who have reason. And this is the way humanity has progressed, and that is something that we have to encourage people to continue to do. So I have fashioned this a bit. So we have, even in my terrible handwriting, bigger boss looks better. Bigger boss looks better when BG writes it. There you go.
Thank you very much, sir. And viewers, I would want to tell you all that, as I said, this program has got three personalities. The first one is artificial intelligence, and there are two special people who will join me in asking some of their questions. If you want to know who they are, what they would be asking, you have to be with us until the end, because that is when I'm going to introduce those people. Okay, let's continue with our questions. The next question for you, sir. In a diverse society like India, how do you suggest we balance respect for cultural traditions with the need for rational and scientific thinking?
India is not the only diverse society. Every society is diverse because every person is different. You're a humanist, I am one. On certain very important things, it's very likely we think the same way, but not in everything. So even within our movement, even within our circles, there will be difference of opinion. So if that is the case, and that applies to religious groups too, not every religious person thinks the same. They are probably all equally intolerant, but I think in terms of their appreciation of things, their judgment about things, we should recognize that any collection of people, maybe more than three, starting with that small number to the large ones, there will be diversity. The question is, how are we to, when there are different traditions bringing in that diversity, not just individuals, but masses of people, groups with their own historical inputs into their identity, personality, thinking, how can they be together? I think with the least amount of messing with the group by others would be the way to do it. What do I mean by least amount of messing? Least amount of trying to control them or to punish them for not being like you. This is the tendency of modern India, in many parts of South Asia, in large parts of Africa, where just because you're not like the majority, you get punished. Just because you disagree, you get punished. Margaret Mead is a lady who said the world goes forward not because of those who agree with it, but because of those who disagree with it. Now, there is a very important point she is making there, that those who dare to be different, those who disagree, not simply to be disruptive, but to give a new perspective, are the ones who are leading society forward, civilization forward. Now, so what about respect? So we know that those who are different are valuable and we should pay attention to them, and we should not impose our ideas on them with unreasonable force. The criteria for what we should do about disagreement should be guided by human rights. Now, human rights mean that those rights are available to all. So, while we nurture and encourage diversity, disagreement, dissent, and opposition, we must make sure that that does not impact directly the ecosystem where freedom is made available. Algeria, for example, decided at one point to elect a deeply religious, intolerant party to come to power. What did they do after coming to power? They destroyed the very few freedoms that were available in society. Can't accept that. Majoritarianism, majority votes, is an indicator of the mind of the people. However, it's not a guarantee of democracy. So we have to judge everything by the standards of democracy. I earlier said elections are a mechanism of democracy. So what is democracy then? Democracy is, we have this fancy definition, rule of the people, by the people, for the people. It doesn't capture the essence of democracy. The essence of democracy is captured in the French Revolution. Its most famous liberty, equality, fraternity. Now, those who know English well know fraternity relates to brothers. So, that's the way French language is structured. They don't mean to exclude women, not consciously, but the language is so. They say, like you say, mankind, where you mean everybody else, women too. So we have liberty, equality, fraternity. Liberty is freedom for all. Equality is equal freedom for all. Now, equality is a moral concept. Freedom is a political concept. Solidarity is a human concept, human solidarity. And it comes from our biological being. All these three things together would define democracy. If in our diverse society, elections lead to the abnegation of liberty, equality, fraternity, that's not democracy at all. So, what should we respect and what we should not respect is guided by these things. I will say negative traditions, rituals, religious beliefs linked to practices. These should be discouraged, and I think they sometimes need to be criminalized. In Spain, I think 2004 or 2003, an imam, a cleric, wrote a guidebook on how to beat your wife when she disagrees with you. He was immediately put in prison. Said it's only for those who believe in Islam and the practices of Muslims. But that's not what every Muslim man does. You can't hide behind it. Do you think that all Muslims are beating up their wives? No. So one scoundrel invoking religion is trying to promote a backwardness in society. And he was correctly arrested. So don't let anyone hide behind religion. Sati, not too long ago, by that I mean in terms of history of countries is in centuries, not in years or decades. And relatively, I think one would say, in India some decades ago, Vijayaraje Scindia, a leader, a member of parliament, shamefully said Sati is not wrong. She should have been arrested because promoting this practice will lead to the killing of people if we don't take the right steps. If we let the mullahs and the priests and the pastors continue their propagation of practices which are medieval at best, then we'll have trouble. And there we must draw the line. Similarly, you can't hide behind the claims of a belief system for cheating people, which is why we have lots of laws which protect you from being cheated by the charlatans, by the deceivers, those who depend on your vulnerability. In India, those rules and laws are not being consciously, effectively implemented. What we see around us is that all the nonsense that is being spread in society by disgraceful outfits like Suman TV and the others is really that. Because the law is not being correctly applied. When you apply the law, it will stop. Because that's not diversity. Diversity is a difference of opinion, of practice. How do you celebrate the New Year? When is your New Year? Is it 1st of January? Is it a shifting date between March and April for the Telugu people, the Punjabis, the Kannadigas, the Bengalis? Those are cultural matters. How do you celebrate a wedding is a cultural matter. But dowry is not. Dowry is a crime. So we must not allow people to hide crime behind tradition claims. And then when you achieve that, everybody's festival is everyone else's celebration. Once we take this out, what prevents you or me from celebrating Christmas or Ramzan or Ganesh festival? If it can bring us together, have some food together, which means everyone should be allowed to come and have the same food. You can't say you're a Dalit, so go eat somewhere else or have your own pandal. You can't be a Christian saying we don't eat prasad, and so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? I'm saying in a spirit of community, if somebody is celebrating a festival, you must join. If there is no human rights issue there. Look, you do it all the time, right? When it is somebody's birthday, it's not your birthday, but you still go and you join in the celebration. Well, it's not your festival, but your neighbor is happy, marking it, cooking. If nothing else, they're cooking good food, right? Go have that biryani, eat that sheer kurma, have that cake, have that ugadi pachadi, drink what they make for Sri Ramanavami, and wish well those who are celebrating. That's co-living with diversity in society. So let's separate the criminal things that are being done and that backward people are trying to protect, claiming it is religion, tradition. Women can't enter the temple. You can enter the temple, you are a man, but you can't go near the sanctum sanctorum, the Garbhagudi, because you're the wrong caste. These are criminal matters. The rest is a celebration of life done differently. In my own home, we never needed an excuse to celebrate it. My home was wealthy with culture and values. My great grandparents were very, very rich, not my parents. but we never suffered from the poverty of the kind that today's society seems to be suffering. Because there are no values, there is no idea of tolerance, there is no recognition of your happiness can also mean my happiness. I don't need to benefit from just the fact that you are smiling. Should make me smile also. Where is the competition between two individuals or two groups of people? That's something we have lost as a society. It is who is bigger or greater. But life in society is not a competition. I'm myself not into competition at all. After a point, I stopped writing competitive exams, and that's it. I'm more interested in not filtering out people, but finding what can help them. Of course, you need selection processes. I just didn't want to be part. When 1,000 people want to do what is possible for 10, you need criteria. But is a measure of success you're being selected for some job, or is life offering greater challenges where success is not passing an exam, but probably living life the way you want? It's not possible for everyone. It's a complex life. But maybe we should be guided by that, move in that direction. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think you have summarized a lot of points there. And thanks for clarifying. So here goes your third question. How do you respond to critics who argue that secularism in India is being misinterpreted as anti-religion?
There is some historical context to the idea of secularism, and that is that where the communist governments came to power, they promoted atheism, not in India, worldwide, in the Soviet Union, in China, in Vietnam, in what is today called Eastern Europe, the former Soviet bloc, the Czech Republic today, then it was Czechoslovakia, the Slovak Republic, Poland, and the list goes on, Hungary and Romania and so on. And it is true that in those countries, they promoted atheism. We are not talking that when we say secularism. We are talking about a distinction between different aspects of society and drawing clear lines. A secular society, a secular state, will never work against religion. It may work against certain religious practices and outlaw them. Sati and child marriage and discrimination against Dalits, and it's not just Dalits who are discriminated against. It's those who we call backward castes, suppressed castes. These are not backward, they are suppressed. They are economically, socially, culturally disadvantaged by the privileged castes, by the powerful ones. I think we need to recognize that society is like this, and we need to address the problems as we see them. It's not enough to recognize this is the situation. It's important to do something about it. When we have the ideas clear, we can do that. And then the ones watching us will know, oh, these guys are not anti-religion, that these guys are actually pro-human rights and for tolerance. And they are promoting the ideas of tolerance, modernity. So my question is reversed in this context. So are you, when you say that you are religious, are you against human rights? When you say you're religious, are you against democracy? When you say you are religious, are you against science? Because that's what secularism protects. and promotes without interference from religious forces. So suddenly, the ones who are critiquing secularism as anti-religion are forced to understand, recognize that secularism is a way of addressing issues in society, a way of promoting certain tendencies in society, and while doing so, making it better for everyone, taking away discrimination, taking away privilege, providing opportunity to all. That is what secularism is. Wherever religion interferes with these aspects is where secularism is anti-religion. Because that aspect of religion is anti-human rights, anti-democracy, anti-science, anti-progress, anti-equality. So secularism is a most welcome thing, most needed thing today in society. Because the absence of that is what is creating the trouble of today.
Let's go to the next one. In your view, what role does rationalism play in shaping policies that affect millions, especially in a country like India?
um, yeah, I think all modern statecraft, all modern political theories point to a secular setup in a multi-religious society, a non-religious setup, and transparency in decision making, which is based on facts, which is based on a declared objective of the welfare of all. The only way you can do it is getting a rationalist approach. Look, modern democracy, modern administration, modern judicial concepts and systems are based on the assumption that all humans are rational. It's based on a humanist concept that we are all equal, that we all have a moral worth which is equal. Now, one vote per person, what is the meaning of that? The meaning of only one vote per those eligible to vote is to show that everyone has the same worth and value in society. Everyone is able to equally participate in the activities of society or giving it direction. That's the reason why I have one vote per person. Now, voting which reflects the inherent equality and worth of every individual in society. Administration which is transparent and which explains the reasons why a decision is taken, on which a policy is built, has necessarily to be rationalist. You know what? When you have to challenge a law, a proposal, a policy in the court of law, one of the grounds on which you can challenge something is that it is not rational, that it is not reasonable, that it is not just. So, at one time, the whim and fancy of a king, a queen, most often a king, at one time, where a holy book or a rishi or a prophet or a savior decided what the policy should be. Today we say it's humans who decide the policies. And the basis of deciding those policies is the use of facts, reason, and having the objective of human welfare. That's rationalist. So that's the way policy has to be formed. And in the absence of that, you can even challenge the policy. That's the judicial system. The judicial system, when is deciding a criminal matter, will ask for evidence. Look, asking for evidence is a scientific method. It's a rationalist method. No court can function saying, I don't need evidence, right? You got the answer.
So, with that answer, we have finished our first part of our conversation. Let's move to the second part. The topics of the second part are on human rights and social issues. In that topics, my question to you would be, what's your take on the state of human rights in India? How do you think India can improve its human rights record?
Um, it's easy for us, without too much effort, to say, I like my country, therefore everything in my country is great. I think this is what most of us in India do, and most Indians outside India do. It does not do any favor to the nation to believe in a lie. So why do I say lie? It's a big word to say lie. Because on the one hand, we are making claims that we teach the world something, that this is the mother of all democracies. People have to learn from us and we have nothing to learn from outside. In that context, I am saying that concept, that idea is not founded in fact. So we have to look at how human rights experts rate our country. At a very basic level, basic as not basic, but at the fundamental level, where do we stand on the hunger index? Every human being has a right to food, nutritious food. Where do we stand there? Are we next to Afghanistan or are we next to Switzerland in that matter? On the aspect of the welfare of women, where do we stand? Are we next to Norway and Sweden, which has the best representation of women in positions of power, responsibility, participation in society? Or are we amongst the countries which say women have to behave themselves, they should not be too much seen outside, and when they have to be seen outside, it should be behind a wheel? People saying women entering the workforce is disturbing society. The role of women is to just produce children and look after them and cook. In which category, in whose company are we in? That will decide. Where are we on the freedom index? Where are we on the corruption index? Now, many people think corruption is about giving money to a government officer, but the meaning of corruption is much more expansive than abuse of power is also corruption. Doing that which you are not entitled to because of your official position is corruption. Tempting someone with the lure of something is also corruption. And of course, taking money and various things in exchange for favors. Someone buying shares in your company because you're favoring them with a policy. All that is corruption. The index of corruption has a direct link to the index of human rights, right? When some people are arbitrarily exercising their um, authority or power to make a decision and they do it in favor of someone against the others, that is corruption. And that is against human rights. Remember, all people are born equal. Now, if there is no equality of opportunity amongst equals, then you have failed. Then it's a human rights failure. So, pollution. Some of the world's most polluted cities are in South Asia, are especially in the SAARC countries. And the largest member of SAARC countries is India. be it Delhi or Gurgaon or Nagpur or Bhopal or Bangalore or Hyderabad, the levels of pollution are alarming. It is a human right to be able to breathe clean air which is not harmful. And look, in the suburb where you are interviewing me, here in the outskirts of Melbourne, air quality index numbers are usually between 15 and 20, 15 and 20. If you go into the town where there are lots of cars everywhere, then it's in the 25 to 30. Up to 50 to 60 is considered good. Up to 100 is considered all right. Up to 150, you are beginning to sit up and say things are not all right with the air I breathe. We're talking only of air quality index. In India, the numbers start at 200, 250, 300. Just before Diwali celebrations and during, one sees, and also the time of the crop burning in Haryana and Punjab, and after, the numbers break the machine. When 1,000 is the biggest number possible to be recorded, you are 700, 800. Just the night of Diwali and the next day, it crosses 1,000. Whereas hazardous, dangerous to human life starts around 300, 350 or something. And toxic, dangerous, not just to health but to life, bringing down the life expectancy of people, giving them lung cancers, all starts in the domain of 400. How many cities in India have that? A lot. So, food, nutrition, health, freedom to speak, to dissent. Someone says something in a tweet and there's a case against them for sedition and waging war against government of India, becoming an enemy of the state. Someone files a frivolous complaint, the police record it, a judge will send you to remand for 2 weeks. These are very dangerous signs for the freedoms of all people who are subject to the law of the land. So I'm afraid we are not doing very well. It is a fact that in the last 75 years, the average life expectancy of the Indian has gone up from 35 years to nearly 70. 67 for some, 69 for others, women. But it's in the 70s, it's doubled. This is a great improvement in human rights, the possibility to live long. And it is also true that people in India have a better quality of life today than they had previously, 75 years ago. Food is not as scarce as it was previously. People were dying of hunger 75 years ago. They don't. These are achievements of human rights too. Human welfare has enhanced. People are living longer, healthier. There are lots of unthinking comments made saying we have too many cancers now. The fact is, cancer usually affects people who are old. When everyone was dying at 35 and 40, you were not old enough to get cancer. That's not a measure of bad health. It's a measure of good health that you're getting old people diseases when you're old, right? People can say my grandfather lived 80 years. That's your grandfather's story. We're talking about the whole country. Average, how long do people live? This is the achievement of the people of India, of the farmers of India, of the scientists of India. sometimes of the policies of government, but it's an achievement. So on the one hand, hundreds of millions of people have been lifted out of poverty because of increased economic activity. But it has been at the expense of the sovereignty of the people on the resources of the country. Suddenly mining industry comes and forests are starting to be felled. People are building resorts along the coastal regions, cutting off access to the water to ordinary people. You're rich, you can kabjafy the land. Those are not good indicators. Things are better than they used to be, but in the worldwide index, we are not where we should be, not where our constitution promises the citizens. So that's the sad reality.
Moving further, what role do you see for the younger generation in advocating for human rights and secularism in India?
India is 140 crores strong, a little more, 1.4 billion people. 65% of India is below 35 years of age. That's nearly 90 crores of people, zero point 0.9 billion people who are young, who are below 35, who will be alive for possibly the next 35 to 45 years, because going forward, life expectancy will also grow, going by the trends. So the youth of today can only look after their welfare by making sure their human rights are protected. How can they do it? They can do it by defending them. Today they are not defending them. The youth of today is busy pursuing a job, which is not wrong. None of these things is wrong. What the youth is doing is not wrong, but it's not enough. That's the point. To look for a partner, it is correct. To look for a job, it's absolutely right. You need to be self-sufficient, able to look after yourself, your family, your parents, or your whoever is in need and that you are able to help, whether family member or not. For all that, the young people should do something. So it's not about that aspect. They have to do it all. But is that enough? Will that guarantee your human rights? If you are going to spend your younger days in school and college thinking of the job you will get, will I become an IPS officer, an IAS officer? Will I join IIT, do that, for boys, get a good dowry, go to the US? Are these the objectives of life? Or I want to make the society in which I was born a better place and leave it a better place than when I came. This should be the measure by which humans should set up their goals and objectives. I don't think the young people today are not. I don't think they're doing that. What do you want to do? You ask. Children are saying, I want to get a job in Google. What do you want to do? I want to move to America. This can't be really objectives for one's life. I want to make my country better than I found it. I want to make it so good that everyone else will have the opportunity that I had. These are the thoughts they should have. They start orienting themselves to that. I think the youth will then promote human rights. I listed out for you the things that are not working well. You can't change the whole world, but you can choose a sector, one of these. Problem of nutrition, hunger, opportunity in society, equality, defense of the vulnerable, stop atrocities by the powerful in society or those who are in the police or administration, and make them accountable. Become a lawyer, a judge, a doctor, a journalist. Just be a good citizen. A good citizen will always do good. Our constitution, Article 51AH, the fundamental duties of the citizen, is saying do the following: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, H. Article 51AH. Promote the spirit of social reform, of humanism. Humanism there is slightly different to what I say humanism is, but it's in the field broadly. And social reform, scientific temper. The youth should do all these things because that's the basis, the fountain for all thinking and action towards moving towards greater human rights. If there's an atrocity, stop it. You can't stop it, say it's wrong. Shout loudly. Don't be silent. Silence is always on the side of the bad person. Things are not doing well around you. Cook an extra meal. Share it with someone. You don't have to sacrifice your everything. You can give a little of yourself. It's also contributing to better life around you and therefore improving human life. But the big challenges are to realize that charity is not the same thing as human. Rich and you give 1,000 rupees to someone, that's certainly most important to help someone in need. Absolutely. But that's not improving human rights. To make that person not need your help is human rights. And one has to work towards it, to get systems that are in place, to make people accountable. If you get the rule of law to work in India, you have improved the state of human rights. We can all do things around us. One doesn't have to be a great activist, great in the sense, a high profile person, having a degree in the law. No, we can do it just around us. When each one does this, or most of us do it, we improve human rights.
You stressed this point many times that working for the society is not something that you pursue after retirement or after you get aged. So I think all the young people who are watching this show now, I think you got your message. So it's your responsibility to make this a part of your life journey, to start it at a very young age. And there are people around you and leaders around you who can give you the right guidance. And talks like this will also give you some insights so that you can work along. Thanks.
I can add one point here.
Yeah.
My own life. I lost my mother when she was 55. Who knows what genes I have? She had cancer. And she died when I was not even in my mid 30s. I've never spoken about this earlier. So I said to myself, till I reach my mother's age when she left, I will do what would be the ideals that we cherished at home and that she would have appreciated. So this was a deeply personal decision I made. When she had died, I was in India with my father and I had an invitation from the United Nations to contribute to a conference as an invited expert in Spain, in Madrid. I showed the invitation to my father and I looked at him. I was home because my mother had died. We were in grieving and I was sitting with him. And he said, Ellamma, మన ఫ్యామిలీ ఉన్నదే దీనికోసం కదా. I had not realized that my family had a mission till he said that. I was just doing it because I was doing it. I was passionate, I was interested. I had never, my parents and I were the same, but I had never thought of it as a family mission. He said it naturally, but it made a mark in my brain, in my mind, in my heart. I said, till age 55, that's exactly what I will be doing. And at my 50th birthday, I declared in the gathering of close friends that Sahana had invited without telling me. I said, from now on, it'll be different. And I will take a different route in what I'm doing. Because I had in mind 55. That plan is working. Because I have always said, you can't be a person working for change in society. When you're old, you have no more energy, you've retired, nobody wants you. Your wife wants you to go out of the house because you're a nuisance. You have no job or you've retired and you're constantly asking for coffee and this and troubling the partner. They say, go out and do something. Then they go to change society. Oh, changing of society is such an important thing that those who have the energy to do it should do.
And the young people have got lots of.
Yes. They are spending, they do a lot of exercise by scrolling reels in TikTok. By all means, entertain yourself. Entertainment is a great thing, but let not life be guided by seeking entertainment. Being stuck to the mobile phone, watching TV for long hours means you can't read, means you can't go out for a walk, means you can't look at the sky, look at the stars. It means you can't think for yourself. It means you can't play with children. What a poor life it is, just looking at mindless imagery. So there is a problem. I told you what I did for myself. I set some rules, it was not to seek anybody's approval. I'm telling you this 20 years and more after I had taken the decision for myself. In a sense that my father too decided for me by reminding me that this is what we do.
This is your duty.
It is our family's purpose. It is our duty. But it should be, whether your dad says that to you or not, if you want a good life, you have to work for it. If you want money, you have to work for it. Everything requires work, and we all have limitations of place and age and health and possibilities and so on. But everyone can try something. It's possible. Don't wait to retire. Don't wait to grow old and become a grumpy person and then start changing the world. The world will not change if it's time pass for you. It's a full-time thing. Do please whatever you can.
Thank you for those insights, sir. My next question is, India has a long history of caste-based discrimination. How can the country break free from the grip of casteism in this modern era?
It's not the modern era for India. It is an era where about 25% of the country is victim of the most pernicious forms of discrimination, of, of throwing out people outside, either physically or socially, of the purview of society. So it's not a modern era. But in this century, what can we do to defeat caste? We can only destroy it. if we do not let it continue to discriminate. What is the main objection to casteism? It is the inheritance of privilege through birth and the perpetuation of social hierarchy through the group that you have been born into, and the continuation of social incest of this kind, which creates pockets of privilege and sources of suppression and oppression against the vulnerable people. The way to fight caste and its discrimination is to give power to the victims, not by depending on the generosity of the powerful. No. Human rights and justice are got by asserting yourself, your dignity, and protesting wherever that is violated. I think despite all the dissatisfactions we have, India is a far better country today as a people than India was 100 years ago. Remember that discrimination was how religion operated. Today, at least, there are laws against that. Previously, there were no laws against discrimination. We have today the Chief Justice of India, who was born into a Buddhist family, Ambedkar's Navabuddha family. He's Chief Justice of India today. Don't forget what happened with Shivaji. Shivaji Bhosle family, who, when he wanted to declare himself Maharaj, so when he would become Chhatrapati Shivaji, he needed for the coronation, he was a devout Hindu. Incidentally, Shivaji Maharaj is invoked by those who hate Muslims very often. But there was probably no parallel to the tolerance and the welcoming approach of Shivaji Maharaj to the Muslim subjects in his kingdom, many of whom were his army generals. Anyway, when Shivaji Bhosle wanted to become crowned as Shivaji Maharaj, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, the Brahmins, meaning the priests of the time, refused because he was not a Kshatriya. Don't believe this bloody nonsense of Chava film, where Chava related talk about a Kshatriya kingdom being established. How can a BC establish a Kshatriya kingdom? Shivaji was born in what is today called backward caste. So that's an important thing because they are reinterpreting history to promote the caste system. So a BC came to power and established a Kshatriya thing. Whereas when he wanted to be the ruler and proclaimed so, the priestly class of the time refused to give him the Rakta Tilakam, anointing with blood. So they got someone from the Bengal to do it. Can you imagine in a kingdom, all the priests of that kingdom refused to anoint him. The one who came from Bengal is reputed to have anointed him not with the thumb but with the toe of the foot. From there to today, President Murmu is from a tribal caste. Justice Gawai is from a Buddhist background, but a Dalit by birth, traditionally called untouchable. And they are holding positions of high authority. So you see, India has changed. It's not like it hasn't. It has improved. The problem is with the slow pace and the reluctance of the power structures to yield to the great force of social reform and progress. That's a lifetime's agenda for every person in India. My grandfather did it. My father, to an extent, was part of it. I think my son should also do it wherever it happens. And everyone should decide to so do, despite whatever might be the inconvenience. The inconveniences we face are not so bad, not so dangerous. They're inconveniences. We're not the foolish who were almost killed for what they did. We're not the Ambedkars who had to face extreme troubles to go where they are, they were then in their society. We have more tame situation. So we should do what we should and end it that way. Empower the victims.
The message is clear. Moving on, religious extremism often leads to violence in various forms. How do you think rationalism can help address this issue on a national scale?
When we talk of religion, we are talking of a system of thinking or non-thinking, which is centered around the idea that there is an ultimate truth which comes to us through revelation, a prophet, a saint, a fakir, through a holy book, which cannot be questioned. The moment you say that this is the final truth, you are actually saying, don't propose anything else as truth. Because it's not, it's false. Because my book said it, my Lord said it, my prophet said it, and so on and so forth. That means it's no longer an open society where discussion, debate, and progress is possible. And we've seen what it means to the world. The Buddha inaugurated a period of free thinking, which very soon after the reported death of the Buddha, just a few hundred years from then, weakened the grip of the caste system to the extent that the Mauryas came to power. The Mauryas are not Kshatriyas. To the extent that a descendant of Chandragupta Maurya, Emperor Ashoka, did everything that he did to humanize society. Soon after Ashoka's death, by 6 or 7 generations, there was a reaction, and the king, so the descendant of Emperor Ashoka, was killed by his army general, Pushyamitra Sunga, and a new regime was installed. This regime required soon to be produced the Manodharma Shastra, the Puranas, and so on, to reinforce the ideas that had become weak. That's right. During this period of enlightenment, growth, emancipation from things, do not ever discount the extraordinary influence of the Charvakas in this, of free thinking. India was a free society. People were thinking, arguing, discussing, debating, abusing each other, but they were doing all of that. It was a vibrant time for Indian thought. And we know what happened after the revival of popular religious belief, after the destruction of the legacy of Ashoka. 1600 years of stagnation, social stagnation. Some economic achievements were definitely there, no doubt. Artistic achievements also were there. But the social backwardness of India, for which reason 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, we were constantly fighting for widow remarriage, stopping children's marriages, girl child getting married, sometimes in the cradle, but very often before they even cross year 10 of their age, making more rights available to people and so on. Undoing the wrongs of a lot of religious extremism everywhere imbued in society is what the work of the last 300 years of social reform entailed in India. In Europe, where the church had its iron grip on society for nearly 1600 years, because the emperors became religious and they imposed their ideas, and their ideas were influenced by the priestly class, and the priestly class became so important that nobody could defy them. That's the period which is called the Dark Ages. That is why we should fight religious extremism, because it will destroy us as humans. It makes us slaves to an unquestionable idea. The only approach to that, and that is not a new proposal, this is what we have seen. The non-thinking, ritualistic approach of the age was countered by the application of reason for human morality. The Buddha was not a scientist. The people around the time the Buddha was alive, Ajita Kesa Kambali and so many Makkala Gosala and so on, they're all people who thought for themselves. They did not discover that the earth was round or the sun was not the center of the universe and things like that. They did nothing. But the Buddha made an interrogation about moral values a secular activity. God was not needed, religion was not needed for someone to be moral. That is a Buddha's great contribution. From then on, from then when reason was introduced into the thinking of the goals and the objectives of life, of morals in life, till now, only that which invoked reason has improved society. Reason rejects authority, so it's completely opposite to religion. Questions all authoritarian tendencies in society, which is the basis of social injustice. Because you can't protest, you can't question, because they might kill you, and so on. Along with reason, we need reasonableness. We need the possibility to persuade people to change, not impose change on them. You must regulate the violation of norms and make it punishable. But we should be in the process of educating people, of persuading them, and of bringing them to our point of view to the extent it stands the test of scrutiny. The only motor of social change throughout human history has been reason, knowledge, and reasonableness. Reason is innate to the human mind because we ask, we question. Reasonableness is what helps us live in society without going to the extremes, willing to compromise, not on principles, willing to compromise on certain things so we can all live together better. And reasonableness is important really for that reason, so to say. Knowledge. Because you can't build anything on ignorance, right? And to build something on knowledge, you need to know that that knowledge is corresponding to reality. For something to correspond to reality, it's not enough to make a claim about it. You have to actually show that it is linked to reality. That showing that it is linked to reality is a process of investigation and observation and drawing conclusions, the scientific method. What you have found out, I should also find out. Then it becomes a scientific, from nothing wrong with theory. From theory, it becomes a law. It's accepted by everyone.
Science.
A scientific law. And then it becomes the basis on which other people are able to build other um, knowledge sources, which is why reason is so important, rationality is so important. You want to see what a society built on ignorance looks like? Go to Iran, go to Pakistan, go to Namibia, go to parts of India, parts of Pakistan, go to the hills of Nepal. You will see what it means to live in ignorance. Oppose that to those who live by the light of reason. And we don't need a new argument. The proof is in what it has resulted in. People in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, England, Japan, Australia, Canada, Spain, Portugal, they live over 85 years. In the 60s, they are saying, age 60, they're saying we are middle aged. Many of them expect to live up to 90, 89. As a result of what?
Science.
It's not the result of ignorance, result of knowledge. There are no laws which prohibit you from thinking or talking freely.
No.
Today, a tweet can land you in a jail in many countries.
And we're seeing that as well.
It's happening. It's happening. Dissent has a penalty today of loss of freedom. And that needs protest, that needs resistance, that needs quashing and elimination. These are the jobs, the tasks of everyone around us. But believe me, you can't do that without making your fellow human rational. How you think, so you behave. Belief drives behavior. Address the belief so that the behavior will change. Don't start with the behavior, it takes you nowhere. If this behavior is stopped, some other irrational behavior will come. So that's a guide to social reform. Work at the belief. Don't impose a belief. Expose what is wrong through showing what the right is. By making your proposal accessible to criticism, analysis, and disproof. And then you've established social and real truth.
With this response, we have finished our second part of today's conversation. While you all address the belief, let us take a short break, and we'll see you soon in the next episode.